Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dan from Sunday Night Games, here for part 5 of the action adventure tutorial series. Welcome back, and let's get started. So, yeah, in this tutorial, I'm going to be using a few things that I made. First, I made this one in tiled. So, this is just a room that I built out of, some various tile sets. Probably one of the ones I used in a previous video. But definitely just find some tile sets. Build a room. So this is going to be a house, actually probably the main character's house, and this is kind of where you're going to begin your adventure, kind of in the world. And I'm not really going to go over building anything else in tiled probably because I've kind of already covered a lot of that stuff. And if there's anything that I haven't covered in tiled, I'll be sure to kind of talk about this. But this is just basically, I used a tile set and built this house. I got some other, sprite sheets. Let's see, I've got, I think I had like a whole characters pack from one of those itch.io asset packs I talked about. So I got just a man. He's just going to be kind of walking around the town, and you can kind of talk to him. An old man, he's just going to be standing there. He's only got, 3 frames, so he looks kind of tired. I also have a sword image here. So this is going to be, you're going to open the chest and kind of get your sword. So this is going to be kind of floating over the chest, kind of Zelda style. And it's going to be like, wow, you got a sword. And another thing I'm going to use is a bush. So, you need to get the sword so you can cut up these bushes. And basically, let me see if I can get the grid on. Grid settings. Yeah, I'll just say 8 width. So you can see they're kind of evenly spaced for 8. That way you can grab these leaves individually. You might have a bush already that has 3 different frames already like built in, but we're basically going to move these leaves around and kind of make our own kind of bush explosion. I did try using like the bush leaves as projectiles, but it just didn't work. It was too many like sprites on the screen or something. And I also made an inventory screen. The way you do this is pretty important. So what I did, let me just check this grid. Yeah, I'll do like 16 by 16. Actually, I'm going to do 8 by 8. The way you got to do this is basically we're going to be using tile replacing. You can do 16 by 16 for tile replacing, but each 8 by 8 tile actually needs to be unique because what it does is just replace all of the tiles that look like that with a new tile in the video memory. So you can see all of these tiles should be unique, like all these 8 by 8 sections. They're just chunks of a number basically. That's just kind of one way you can do it. And that way, it's going to replace, all 4 of these tiles at once with 4 tiles from another image that I'm about to show you. But this is, obviously pretty basic inventory screen. I just wrote inventory with a font and, obviously you can make it as fancy as you want. Well, not as fancy as you want because there is a limit, with the number of unique tiles and everything. But yeah, this looks pretty good. And you can see a lot of them are, like all these white ones on the side. They're all not unique. So yeah, just a basic inventory screen. And just make sure, each slot is kind of evenly spaced on a 16 by 16 kind of chunk there so we can replace the tiles. And I'm going to use this items.png that I made. And this is another one I can show the grid. Yeah, probably 16. So we're going to use, we're basically going to replace it. So we're going to tell GB Studio, just as an example, take this chunk from this. This is going to be like a tile sheet, and just replace, these four tiles right here. So that's kind of why I did the border around, because we're going to replace the inside of it. So we're going to, just replace these 4 with, these 4 from this other picture right here. So that's kind of how, I'm going to show you how tile replacing works, but you just need to make sure, they're all, perfectly kind of aligned with the grid of, 16 by 16 if you're going to be replacing 16 by 16. I also have an NPC of a cat. I might incorporate this, so you can like pet the cat. That'd be pretty cool. Okay, I'm in GB Studio right here. So let's go ahead and zoom in. Oops, however you zoom in. And let's see, I think the first thing I want to do is I'm going to say this is like the player's, starting house. So I want to kind of build some collision around here. And then I want to connect the actual house to an actual house scene. So let me just go ahead and add the scene here. So for the village, it's kind of in the top left of the map right now. So I'm just going to put all the houses kind of over here on the left. So I'll just kind of move over here and I'll switch this. I don't want another forest. I actually want to use the house that I made. So house map 1. That looks pretty good. So first I will let's just do some triggers. I'm going to put a trigger right here at the top. So trigger right there. On enter, change scene over to, scene 13. And I'm actually going to rename scene 13. I'll just call it player house. That sounds pretty good. And make this, I think maybe right here facing up. And then I'll do the same thing over here. So I'm going to add another trigger right here and change scene over to village right and kind of move that to the right spot. And I think I can put it right there. I think it'll look good right there. We'll just see. And I was thinking I'm just not, I don't think I'm going to be able to do instant scene switching. Like I showed you guys with that common tile set. So the common tile set works, I think, if you just have a few different tiles. Like I think we just have too many tiles in this whole scene and too many sprites and all that stuff. So I'm going to end up just switching these to just be like fade speed, just speed 1. So pretty fast still, but not instant. And I'll just go ahead and change this one over here, speed 1. That looks pretty good. So let me go ahead and I'll just test that really quick. I like to do tests occasionally just to make sure, the game is functioning how I think it's going to function. Okay. And so, right off the bat, I'm an arrow, which is less than ideal. And it looks like, maybe I should put the trigger a little bit lower just because it's getting to where his head is kind of covering the top of the door. It looks like he's either a giant or the door is just really tiny. So I'll just go ahead and move those both down. And I think this one should be fine right there, I think, because his feet touch right there. So yeah, and then I'm going to change this to actually have the player character. So I'm going to say, I'll change this to player. And I'm also going to do the, I think it's scene start. Yeah, call script scene start. And we are probably going to end up changing this later. So right now, scene start just automatically gives you the sword because that's kind of how we set it up. But I'm going to add an if statement later once we have a collectible sword. And then it'll be like, if you have the sword, then you can call the script sword button. And then even later, we'll probably have some kind of intelligence with the inventory, and it'll show you like, or it'll just assign it based on, whatever's actually in your inventory, but not right now. So I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and build some collision around this whole house. So there's a couple important things with collision. So like this, this should work right here. And it does if you get really lucky and you go perfectly right in the middle. The only problem is sometimes it's really hard to go right in the middle. With this, it's actually pretty easy because there's going to be a sign here that's going to be blocking you. But you can see like right here, like, I have to basically just get it pixel perfect. And so, sometimes I even miss it. But luckily they have they have this thing, these little shapes here, so they're like rounded corners, and it makes it really easy. I think it's maybe a new feature in 4.2. But if I put these rounded corners on there and around here, basically anywhere that I want the player to just be able to kind of walk around and not get stuck, because it's really annoying to get stuck. It basically, like if you're within, I think like, I don't know, 5 or 6 pixels, it just moves you over automatically. So it's really nice for, things like doorways and stuff like that. So yeah, you can see like it just slid me over. If I'm all the way over too much, then it doesn't really work. But if I get just, pretty close to it, it'll just let me go right in, which is nice. So yeah, I think that works pretty good. So I'm gonna actually put a sign on this this sign right here, like a dialogue. So to do that, I'm going to just add an actor, and I'll put it right here, and I think it'll be transparent. Beautiful transparent actor. And let me just, I think I could either do the collision on the sign, or I could just make this actor solid. But let me just add an event, add display dialogue, and I'll just say, this is your house. This is your house. There you go. So whenever you press the interact button, which is either A or B by default, then it should give you that, oops, must be whatever the sword button is not. This is your house. And I think even if I'm looking at it from the other way, it'll still work because it's like a 16 by 16 actor. The transparent is 16 by 16. And then I can go in my house. And so I am going to do some other stuff with the actual house. So I'm going to, I'll just leave that kind of open right there. And I'll go to the house. And I'm going to do the same kind of thing with a collision. So just kind of build that around the door and just kind of around the house. And if you hold shift, you can just kind of draw lines, which is pretty nice. See, I definitely want all the walls and then these beds. I think later I'm going to have it like where you like wake up in bed and, kind of like a lot of those other kind of games. Yeah, I'll just do that all collision. Doesn't really matter. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I think later I'm going to have like a little note because I think the story for my game is going to be like, oh, you woke up and, your sister is missing. So, she left a note like, oh, I'm going to go to the woods and go do some cool stuff. And you're like, oh no, the woods are dangerous. And that's kind of how you start the game. At least in my game, that's going to be kind of the basic story to, get you started out the door. So that should probably work. Let me just go ahead and test that. And I always like to just test stuff really quick. Because sometimes I just miss like, some really obvious things and it's just kind of annoying. And you could do the kind of rounded corners around, the bed and stuff like that if you want to, just to make it easier to navigate. But, it's not a big deal. And I do want to add like jumping later, like jumping off the ledge and stuff like that. That would be pretty cool. I know you can do some collision. Oops, I don't know why I zoomed all the way out. You can do some collision where you can only go one way. So it'd be collision right. So if I do that and I reload, so I could actually walk off there, but then I can't go back up. So, that's one, kind of thing you could do if you just wanted to, do that really quick. Obviously, you probably want some scripting if you want it to actually, seem like you're falling or something like that. But I'm just gonna do that, just normal collision. That should be fine. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So I got a, basic house set up. I do want to, kind of color the house and have, different colors. with this house. I think maybe this brown one would be fine mostly. And a nice thing about coloring, and a lot of things you do here, you can do hide other layers, so you can actually see what the colors look like. Otherwise, you're going to see all the collision and stuff like that. So I'm just going to hide those layers, and I think I'm going to do like this bed kind of bluish, and this bed over here, maybe a little pinkish or something like that. And actually, yeah, maybe I want this color for the whole thing, more like brown, and then yeah, maybe pinkish for or whatever this kind of color is. So it's kind of like brother and sister, different colored, uh, beds and everything like that. And maybe make the table a different color, something like that. Bookshelf, but obviously it depends on what sprite sheet you have and all that stuff. Let me see. Yeah, I'll just leave those kind of the same color. Um, So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for that little house. I think I will next, I'm going to add just a guy walking around and kind of show you how to just have someone randomly walking around. So I'm going to add a actor, and I'm going to not have him be an arrow. I'm going to have him be NPC, I think man 1. Yeah, because he's pretty much fully animated. So I'm going to go ahead and animate him. Go over to sprites, NPC man 1. And yeah, I'm just going to close this. And I want him to have 4 directions and movement. So I think he's got 4 directions kind of built in. And I'm just going to delete all those. And I'm also going to flip right to make left, so we have one less thing to do. So idle right, he's going to be standing right there. Idle up, just standing facing up. Idle down, like that. And moving right, he's going to have 2 frames. Just pretty basic kind of character here. Okay. And moving up, same thing, 2 frames. Oh, maybe it's these 2 frames. Oops. Oh man, I don't know what I did there. How did I flip him? Huh. Oh geez. I think I've clicked too many times, maybe. Okay, here we go. Add another one here. Make sure it's actually different. Let me just see if that looks good. Yeah, I guess he can be like moving side to side. That's no problem. And then finally moving down. This looks pretty good. And obviously you could add some frames between those. So like just the normal standing one. And that sometimes makes it look better. Let me just try that. I don't think I have that option for all of these, but yeah, it's all right. Okay, and moving up and moving right. I don't think we have any options. So yeah, that looks pretty good. And I could, change the color of this guy if I want him to be a different palette. And if I want to, right now, I don't have any like palettes really set up for my sprites. So, it will use whatever palettes are on the actual scene. It'll just use whatever those palettes are. But if I go to settings, I can actually set those up. I'm just going to set them up the same as this, just to kind of keep it simple. So just 1 through 6, I think. Oops, that was 4. And 6, and then 7, and then default sprites instead of default UI. That's fine for now. And I'm going to go back to sprites, and you can actually select. So if you don't have anything selected, you can just drag and kind of select. I'm going to make him like palette 7 down there, and just make sure you do all the frames. So otherwise it'll just look really weird because you won't have So he'll just be blinking different colors basically. And yeah, that's fine. And that's where having 4 frames kind of comes in, like more work. Just gotta do all those colors. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so yeah, honestly, that just looks kind of weird. I'm just gonna get rid of his idle. Yeah, I'll just change his speed to make him, I think, look a little better. So I'm gonna go back to the game world and let's see his animation speed. I'll make that a little bit slower. And yeah, I think I'm gonna make him solid so you can't run into him. And then I'm gonna have an on update running. So I'm gonna add event. And first thing is just wait. And actually, let's see, I'm actually going to set his, I'll do this afterwards, but I'm going to set his starting position randomly too. That way, like whenever you come out of a house, he's not just standing in the same spot. But basically, we're going to use a random number. So the best way to have an actual random number is to use 1 through 8. So if you use like just 1 through 4 or something like that, apparently it's like you're way more likely to get like 1s and 2s for whatever reason. Just the way the randomness works in, Game Boy. But if you do 8 or 16, it's a lot more, more evenly random than using some other number. So to do that, I'm going to look at this location right here, and I'm going to have him go 8 tiles either way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should be fine. And then that's almost fine. Let's see if he's right here. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 8. Actually, let me see. I think it might actually be 0 through 7. So it might only add 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that'll be fine. Okay, so I'm going to have him right here, and it's basically just going to add 0 through 7, and he's just going to randomly walk to those locations. So he's going to wait. Yeah, I think I'm going to make him wait like 4 seconds, and then I'm going to add event, and I'm going to set 2 variables to values. So variable set to value, I'll do local 0 and local 1, and it's going to be an expression. And actually, maybe I can do math, just random, random number. So if you do random just as the math thing, and then I think if I just put 8, then it'll just give me a random number from 0 to 7. So we can try that out and like test it and like, test it with a dialogue and everything. But I think I'll just go ahead and set it. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So copy event and paste after. I'm going to do it with local 1 as well. So I'll get 2, pretty random numbers. And then I'm going to set my location, or not set my location, but move to. So insert event after, act or move to. And I'm not going to do move relative, or else then he would just walk all around the screen, which you might want him to do. I don't know. But I just want him to kind of patrol just randomly, kind of around this area, kind of in front of this house. So instead of number here, we're going to do, actually, instead of variable, we're going to do expression. So expression, and then I'm going to do the his current position plus the random numbers. So 18 and 13. So I'm going to say 18 plus local, oh wait, I do $sign local 0. Make sure you click on it so you can actually get the variable, or else you're going to be really confused later. And then 13 plus $sign local 1. So I think this should work if I just run it as it is. Just every 4 seconds, he will just kind of walk to a random location within that kind of area. So let me actually see if that is true or not. Okay. Every 4 seconds. Okay. And so he kind of pushed me out of the way, which is kind of mean. Um, so what I can do is in options, you can make him collide with actors. So if he collides with actors, then he will just stop instead of being so mean. So if I go back to here, let me see if he runs into me. No, I went the other way. If I go here, maybe he'll go this way. Jeez. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. All right, he's definitely gonna come this way first. Aha, see, he stopped. I knew it. And so he stops, so then you can like talk to him or something. I mean, if we actually add, talking to him, that'd be cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set a variable. So, and then also, yeah, I am going to run this on initialize as well. So I'll just do this and I'm going to copy these events. So on initialize, I'm just going to paste these. And actually, instead of self move to, I'm going to insert event, set position, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So expression, and I will just see if I can copy that whole thing. Okay, yeah. Control C worked, Control C. Okay, Control C worked the first time. Maybe I can just drag it. Can I just drag it? Nope. Okay, so Control C sometimes works. And then I'm going to get rid of that. So he should start in a random position now instead of just always spawning in that top left corner of his little area. And I also want to give him something to say. So I am going to use another variable. So I should probably name these so I don't get confused later. I'm just going to name this one rand x. This one could be rand y. That way when I use more variables, I won't accidentally use one of those variables. So on interact, right now, nothing happens if you interact with him, but I can add an event. And I think I'm going to do a switch. So a switch is just basically a bunch of if statements, but it looks like you're smarter when you do a switch instead of a bunch of if statements. So variable, I'll just say local2, I'll call that dialog variable. And right now, just number of options 2, and it should start at 0 by default. And so I'm going to say display dialog, and I'll just give them give the players a hint. Sister run to the woods earlier. Spooky. Okay, and for the layout, and I think the layout's fine actually. Behavior though, I'm going to do like instant. I hate waiting for dialogues to appear. And then also close when any button is pressed. That should be pretty good. And then since I'm using a variable for this, so I can actually have multiple different potential things that he could say. And I think actually on initialize, let me see, I'll just come back here and do another event. So insert event, set variable to value. I'm going to set the dialog just to be 0. And I'm also going to insert a comment. That way I can remind myself. We'll add more dialogue later. There we go. Now I'll know to come over here and, do more dialogue later. Because right now it's just going to set the dialogue to 0. But I might have an if statement like, if you find the sword, maybe he'll say, oh, cool sword. Or, if you rescue your sister or whatever, he'll say something else. It just makes the game, I think, feel, a little bit more alive. You hate just having a guy who just says the exact same thing every time you talk to him, no matter what. So he's going to have 2 things to say right now. So he's going to say, I saw your sister run into the woods, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to increment this value increment by 1, dialog var. And then if it's 1, so this won't run if this has already run, even though I add 1 to here. So potentially it could run, but it shouldn't. Dialog. And if it's 1, then I'm going to delete this. I'm just going to copy these settings here. So copy event, paste event here. And I'm actually going to do decrement as well, value decrement, dialog var. That looks pretty good. So then he's going to give you, some more warnings. There are lots of monsters in the woods, right? Yeah, just make sure you don't overwrite the edge of the dialogue there. Yeah, so let's go ahead and test that just really quick. So he should say something, and then if you talk to him again, he should say something else, which is, pretty nice. Let's see if he's actually moving like he should be. All right, perfect. And I saw your sister run into the woods. Spooky. There's lots of monsters in the woods, right? So if I wanted him to give another clue, I could do that. But I don't think I am. I am going to, you see how he's climbing on the tree? I'm actually going to go, first of all, I'm going to add I'm going to add a little rounded area right here so you can walk down these stairs a little bit easier. And then also around the tree, I'm just going to add, I think, just kind of some rounded corners. Oops. Just make sure you get them, in the right spot. And then another thing is the tile priority, which, if you're using the color palette, it should draw these over the, any sprites, including that guy who's walking around. So that'll look a little nicer. And another thing is with these tiles, I'm probably going to go edit the tile set later, because you can see it uses that lighter color a lot, especially like on the top of the tree. But basically the tile priority is going to switch the lighter colors to be behind the sprites, and then all the other colors are going to be in front. So in this case, it just looks kind of weird. And I will remember, no matter what happens, no matter what dialogue comes up, he should reactivate the HUD. You can see it just disappears there because dialogue kind of overwrites it. So if I just go back to that guy, let's see right here. And so no matter what else happens, I'm going to activate HUD. Call script activate HUD. And that should activate and also update the HUD. Since it's kind of built into that. So I talk to him and my HUD comes back, which is great. Okay, perfect. And yeah, so now I think I want to start working on this little thing down here. We're going to kind of have to come over here and get our sword. And then we're going to have to go cut up some bushes. So I'm going to get the sword and then we're going to add the bushes. And I think I want to do the whole inventory thing right now as well too. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started on that. Let me go down to here. And we've already kind of got a chest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another, if I go to sprites and I go to the player, what's it called? Another animation state. Yeah, so he's got the sword, he's got the default, but I'm going to, I don't know, I clicked the wrong thing. I'm going to click on that plus, and I'm going to call the new state, I'll just call it pick up, because I think it's going to be, or I'll just call it got item. Yeah, and that should be good. I think just fixed direction, I'm just going to have one kind of frame right there, and it's going to look like he's pretty happy. Yeah, kind of like this one right here. So he got the item. He's really pleased with himself. And yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah, so I think that's all I need to do right here. So whenever I open the chest, it's going to switch to, got item. And then also the sword is going to go over the It's going to go over the player. And I also have the sword here, so I'm actually going to add animation to that. So it just looks like it's kind of hovering in the air, which I think would be pretty cool. So yeah, to do that, I'm gonna set up the onion view right there. It's going to go down a little. Then it's going to go back to the middle. And then it's going to go up a little bit. So if I just play that, it just kind of looks like the sword is just kind of hovering there in midair. Why does it seem like... Yeah, it seems like it should be better than that. Oh, this one should be higher. I don't know. I don't know how I messed that up. Let's try that. Okay. I think that looks a little bit better. I might change the animation speed, but we'll see. It probably will be fine. So I'm going to go back to the game world. And first I'm going to do some basic just collision here. I'm not super worried about making it fancy right now for the video. But yeah, I'll just kind of do some basic collision there. That looks pretty good. Yeah, and honestly, this corner up here, just do that. Oops. Erase that. Okay. All right. And I think I am going to do tile priority, even though it looks kind of weird with this current setup, but I think that'll be fine. I'm not going to do in the individual trees right now. It's not a big tile priority for me. Oh boy. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good for the tile priority and everything. I think that'll be fine for now. You can spend a lot of time on it, but I think for now, let's just add the chest. So I'm going to do plus actor, and I'm going to kind of put it near the top. Change that to chest. This is the same chest we did in that dungeon. So yeah, I think that should be fine. And so we just need to have a few things. So on initialize, I'm going to set the state, the animation state, to default, and I'm not going to loop animation. I'm going to set insert event before, set animation speed. Actually, I can just set the animation speed right here to just none. So it'll just be default. And then whenever I interact, then I'll just turn it on. So I will say, actually, I'm going to add an event here. So if variable is true, and this is going to be a global variable I'm going to make. So variable 9, I'm going to call that got sword. Okay. If got sword, then set animation state to, I believe I have open for the chest. So then it'll just be stuck open, so we don't have to, worry about that. And then if I interact with it, a few things are going to happen. So first I'm going to check if is true, got sword is true. If got sword, then you can add event display dialog. Remember when I got this sword, I was so young back then. So if you already have the sword, then it'll just display that. Otherwise, it will do a couple things. So it will change animation speed to 4. That should be fine. And then it's going to activate an actor. So I just have to add an actor. I'm going to put the sword over here. That beautiful sword that I had. Sword. On initialize for the sword, I'm just going to say hide actor. That should be good. And then on this one, when I actually, so if I already have the sword, it's gonna be open. Oh wait, on interact. So if I already have the sword, I do need to put this in else. I don't know why it's outside of else. So if I have the sword, it just says, oh, I remember when I got that sword. Otherwise, it's going to set the animation state. It's going to set actor location, set actor position of the sword, actor 2, and that's going to be way down here, probably like over here maybe. That should be good. And I'm also going to check, I'm going to check if the player is actually facing above. So insert event before, if direction, actor facing direction. If the player is facing up, then I will do this. So then I will do all this stuff. Yes, that looks good. I'm going to add another event. I'm going to show actor. So after I move that actor, I'm actually going to move it just right next to that actor. I'm going to show actor 2. So actor 2 is going to move right there. It's going to show. And then I'm going to change actor animation state of the player to got item. And doesn't need to loop. It's just a single thing. So basically the player is going to just open it. He's going to stand. He's going to look really excited. The sword is going to be, pretty much right above him. And then I'm going to wait. Actually, I'm going to do I will wait. Wait for half a second, then do a dialogue and say, wow, I found my dad's old sword. And then I'm going to do another dialogue, and I'm going to change this to instant, any, just copy and then paste. And I bet I could use the B button to attack now. All right, and then I'm also going to add set variable to true for got sword. So I just want to track all this stuff. So, I've learned, with that other dungeon I made, you definitely got to track all of this stuff. If it's, and since this is kind of a global variable here, got sword, it's going to, be pretty important for later. But if you have the sword, then certain things will happen. And if you don't have the sword, then, other things will happen. So if you already have the sword, it's just going to play this. But if you don't have the sword and you're facing up, then it's going to do all this stuff. So let's actually test that. And to test things, I always like to just start in the same scene. It just gets really annoying to have to walk all the way back to the scene location. So let's see if this works. So, all right, first of all, I think it should be solid. So I already can tell that's going to be a problem. I'm going to switch that to is solid. I don't think it has to be on a collision group. I just need to be able to interact with it. So let me move over here. All right. It says, wow, I found my dad's old sword. So I think what I should do is wait after the animation plays, because that animation didn't really get to play. So set speed for, I'll just try waiting 1 second and just see if that makes a difference. Okay. Okay, so I think I need to not show it until after that second. So let me try that. And a lot of this is just like kind of setting up the timing of everything. So you open it. Wow, I found my dad's old sword. I bet I could use the B button to attack now. And all right, perfect. So that was a perfect cutscene, and now I'll just slide on out of here. Whee! I should probably change my animation state and also hide the sword. So I'm going to, and actually, yeah, I can attack with the sword. So that'll actually change my state. But I'm going to go back and I'll just say deactivate actually that sprite right there. So I'm going to, yes, got sword true. Okay, so I'm going to paste, I'm going to insert event after, and I'll just say deactivate actor. So just turn off that sword. And then I'm also going to add event animation state, set actor animation state for the player just to default. That should be pretty good. And now we're going to try it, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to work perfectly. Walk over here, open the sword. Wow, I found my dad's old sword. I bet I could use the B button to attack now. And then it disappears. And then if I go say, wow, I remember when I got this sword, I was so young back then. And yeah, I like adding funny things to the games. Let me see if this tile priority stuff works. So I just kind of set up some of these trees to have the tile priority. And I think that works. I think that works pretty good. So yeah, I am going to eventually add a couple little enemies over here. It's not a huge priority for me right now. I think I just want to try to do this little sword thing, and then get the, I think I'm going to add a slime, like just some slimes that just kind of flop around here. But I'm also going to add them to that dungeon. So I think when we get to that dungeon, I'm going to go through like creating the slimes and all that stuff. And then I'll just copy some, bring them back here. And that should be pretty good. So yeah, I think that works pretty good. Let's also do the, yeah, I think right now I'm gonna do the inventory. So let's set this actually right now. You just by default, I think on every scene probably you got scene start, and scene start calls sword button, but I only want scene start to call sword button if you actually have the sword. So variable is true. And we're going to probably change this later because it'll depend on the inventory system that we come up with. So if got sword is true, then you can call script sword button. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and call the script sword button right here. So I'll just say sword button. And so yeah, that'll assign the sword button. So when I start the game again, without that sword button being called automatically. So I shouldn't be able to actually use the sword. So like my sword button doesn't work. And then I have to go here. Oh, I have to be facing up. Wow, I found my dad's old sword. And see, it kind of hovers in the air. I think that's kind of a nice little touch, especially because everything's kind of the same colors. I bet I could use the B button to attack now. And you can. Wow. So cool. All right. So yeah, let's do the inventory, and then let's do the bushes after that. So for the inventory, I've got that screen I talked about, and I'm going to add it over here actually. And I'm probably going to actually copy this. I'm going to copy this scene right here, this world map scene, and I'll just Control C, Control V, just kind of copy it over there. And I'm going to switch that to the actual inventory that I was talking about. So yeah, I've got that inventory. I'm going to get rid of this actor for now. I think later I will. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm just going to kind of initially get the inventory set up a little bit. The inventory is kind of confusing. Or it's kind of not confusing, but it is complicated. It's a lot of moving parts. So, but I think right now I'm just going to close that and, or not close it, just delete it. And I think keeping it as adventure is fine. Um, I will want to, and this is the inventory scene I'm looking at. I will want to hide the overlay, so I'll keep that. I don't need to worry about the camera dead zones. Don't need to worry about this player position thing. That was all our complicated map stuff. But I will do attach script to start button. So the inventory is going to be on the start button. And I might make it later so where you press start, it actually, goes to the like main menu and then you can choose inventory or something like that. I haven't really decided, but this looks pretty good. So it'll restore the first scene from stack. And then I just need to go all the way back to, I think, the scene start, and you've got activate HUD and then sword button. Then you've also got, the map script. So the map script runs, I think right now, just on a couple levels here. But I can go ahead and just add the, I'm going to add the inventory script. So I'm just going to add that and just call this inventory. I'll call it inventory button. Yeah, that should be fine. And maybe I should change it to like button inventory, button sword or something like that, but I'll just keep it like this for now. And I should just look at the map script and just see what's going on. So I'm basically just copying or putting the current scene on stack and then changing to that scene. So I'm going to go to inventory button, just paste that. Instead of select, it's going to be start. So it's going to store the current scene on stack and then go to the inventory, which is, okay, yeah, I just renamed my new inventory scene back to inventory scene. So now it'll actually show up in that list. So if I go back to inventory button, I just chose inventory scene right there. So it's going to switch to that. And the only other thing we need to do with this button is actually add it to the start script, the scene start. And you can see, like, if I click on this world map, whatever scenes have that map script, it's got a little linked there. And you can see nothing is linked to the inventory scene. So if I go to scene start, I'll just right click, insert before, and I'll run the inventory button. Inventory button. Here we go. So now all the scenes that are running the scene start should be linking to that inventory scene. And you can always change it. Like if you don't want some scenes to, have the inventory button working, you can just kind of separate those scripts out. But that should work pretty good. Let me go ahead and kind of test that. Yeah, so I'm just in a scene. If I press shift, it goes to map. If I press select, not shift. And then if I press start, it goes to inventory. And I think we already set up the inventory to go back when you press start as well. So that seems to be working pretty good. Obviously, the inventory is not doing anything right now. It's just kind of a blank screen. So what I want to do with the inventory is have it so depending on which items you've got, it's going to fill in these little spots differently. And so, like I said earlier, with setting up this image, you just make sure each of these 8x8 tiles is unique. So this is 16x16, so all 4 of them need to be unique. And usually, if you just do like big numbers, it'll make them unique. So yeah, let me just show you that really quick. So basically, I'm not going to do any if statements right now. I'm just going to say add event. Yeah, so we've got the GBM script hiding the overlay, and then we've got the attach start script to restore the scene from the stack. I'm going to insert event before, and I'm just going to search for tile. So you've got replace tile at position or replace tile at position from sequence. Later on, I'll talk about replacing it from sequence, but that's basically if you want to like animate a certain part of your background, which is pretty cool actually. But I'm not going to do that right now. This one is just going to replace it with just a static image. So I'm going to say replace tile at position. And, let me kind of zoom in here. The little screen will highlight in the right position. So I can just, kind of move this and move that. Oops, maybe back one for the X. Okay, and so you can either do 8 by 8 or 16 by 16. So I'm going to switch this to 16. So it'll just kind of automatically replace that whole 2 by 2 chunk right there. And then I just need to choose the actual tile set. So I've got that items image that I showed you earlier. So with the items image, you can scroll across each 8 by 16 tile. So let's see. So yeah, right now, just as soon as it starts, it's going to just replace that spot in the inventory with this spot from the tile set. So let's just take a look at that. And now if I press start, then you can see it just replaces that right away with that little part of that tile set. So that's kind of the basics of how tile sets work. You just need to make sure you have unique tiles. Um, for example, if I had tried to replace these tiles right here, just to give you a bad example, you will see that it's not going to be pretty. I'll just go ahead and run that to show you because these are not unique. So there's a lot of instances of those tiles. So now if I say that, now you can see, yeah, it's even replacing like these over here because those are the same tiles. So yeah, you can see those tiles are reused a lot and it just doesn't really know exactly what to do. But it's great like if you've got, one flower that you want to animate, then you can just select that one flower and it'll animate all the flowers. So that's kind of a nice thing about that. But if you're doing like an inventory thing, you just want to make sure that they are actually unique. So let me move that back to right there. And so I'm not actually going to do the shovel here. I'm going to do the sword. So let me increase the tile count there. I'm not going to do the sword unless I've actually got the sword. Otherwise, I want to just have a blank. So I'm going to do these top 4 rows in this inventory right now, just to kind of get us started. And then, obviously, you'll probably get the picture after that, or not the top 4 rows, but the top 4 slots. So yeah, I'm going to replace that with a sword, but only if, I'm going to do if variable is true. And let's see, I'll move that. And I will say got sword. And if not, then I'm going to actually copy this. So copy event. And I'm going to use that first tile. So go all the way back down to 0. So 0 will have just a blank. That's kind of what I added there. It's kind of the default. So if you do have the sword, then it'll show the sword. And if you don't have the sword, it'll just show a blank. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. I'll show you guys how that works. And I'm actually going to move myself back. I had to reload from a backup since GB Studio crashed. So always make sure you save your GB Studio files quite often. It might crash. Okay, so if I open this one, wow, I found my dad's old sword. I bet I could press B to attack. So that's great. Actually, I should have checked the inventory first. But now you can see I've got the sword. And just to check that that's actually working without the sword, I can just go to the inventory now, and you can see it's blank. So basically, I'm going to do the same thing for these 4 items right here. And I've already added some extra flags. So I added got bombs, got dust, got shovel. I don't know, the dust is like a magic dust or something like that. So those are just like 4 items that I just want to have right there. I haven't added them to my game or anything, but I'll just go ahead and add them right there. And actually, maybe instead of got dust, I'm going to say let me rename that one to, oops. Calling that, maybe I'll say got wand. Maybe I want to have like a magic wand that does fire or something like that. That sounds pretty good. So yeah, I've just added some variables down there. So I'm going to use those up here really quick. And I'm just basically going to repeat that whole process a few times. So I'm just going to say, yeah, and actually I'm going to rename these events. So if got sword item 1, that way when I minimize it, I can just kind of keep track of where I'm assigning each of these to. So I'm going to copy this event and paste it. And then I will say if got bombs, and I'm going to replace a different tile. So this one right there. I'm going to make sure I update this one too. And then this one I'm going to change to the bomb picture. So now that should be blank unless I get the bombs, which I haven't added to the game. And so I'm going to copy this one. And actually I'm going to rename it if got bombs, which is item 2. Just to kind of help me keep track of all these different variables. Base event after. And let's see, what's the next item? I think, yeah, that's like a wand right there. I'll say if got wand. Got wand. Yeah, so I'm going to replace item 3 right there. And same thing with this one. So increase that one a bit, replace it with a blank one, and then rename that. If got wand, item 3. And this doesn't have any logic in it. It's just kind of a label for me. Just so I can kind of keep track right here. I'm going to insert event. I'm going to actually copy this event, copy event, paste event after. And then I'm going to say if got, what was the last one? Got bombs, got shovel. Yeah, I'll say if got shovel. Rename that to got shovel. Item 4. And then I will reduce this till I find the shovel. Okay, so then I just need to make sure it's actually doing item 4 right there. So yeah, it's going to replace all those tiles. So now if I run the game, then if I press start or enter, then you should see it's just blank for those. There's first 4 items right there. So that looks pretty good. And then if I get the sword, I can go over here and get the sword. All right. And then you can see I got the sword now. So that's kind of a basic inventory system, but I think we want to take it to the next level. So I made a couple images here. So this is going to be an inventory marker. So it is just, you could probably make this yourself pretty easily. So the middle is, the whole thing is 32 by 64, and it's just 2 frames. Honestly, you don't even need the animation, but I wanted it to look cool. So, the center area is the 32, and then these little markers just kind of bounce, back and forth kind of to mark the inventory. And then I made a couple buttons. So right here is just the A button. I also made a B button, but this is going to be 16 by 16. So it's about the same size as the actual inventory slot, but this is going to be kind of on top of it. So it's going to be, this is the part that's going to be covering the inventory slot, kind of the bottom half of it. And then, so it's just going to be on top of the inventory slot and just kind of bounce up and down. Just to let you know that this is the inventory slot that you marked with A. And then we're going to also have one for B, which I could probably see if I just undo this enough. My B button right there. So yeah, I've got a B button and an A button. I save both of those as PNGs, and then we're going to use those inside the game. So I'm going to go back to GB Studio, And then inside GB Studio, we need to do a few things. So this scene actually it's got that transparent sprite sheet. So that means you are actually walking around in it. So I am going to change that from transparent to, the inventory marker. So just select that one. And it currently isn't set up correctly in the sprite. So I'm going to go back to sprites, go to inventory marker. And I think I can just copy these. I'm actually going to change this origin. So the origin is going to be a little bit higher. So I just have to minus that. And then the collision bounding box, it actually looks good right there. So that's the collision bounding box I want. So it's going to just kind of cover the inventory slot entirely. And then I'm going to just make the 2 frames. So bing, bada boom, do that right there. And that's not a sound effect. There's just a thunderstorm going on. You can see that's kind of what it's going to look like. So it's just going to go around to different inventory slots, and then you'll, obviously know which slot is selected. So I'm going to go back to the game, and I'm going to make sure to save this pretty often, just in case my power goes out. And I'm just going to go ahead and play that. Actually, I'll just make all the inventory things go to right there. So if I go to my inventory, okay, so I think I messed up the the sprite. So the movement, I think I must have not set it to only use one sprite thing. So let me go back to sprites. And yeah, this idle right looks great, but I'm going to change it to just fixed direction. And then this should just be the default kind of idle. So now if I run it, I'm going to go back to the game, and then so this is kind of the inventory selector. Now, right now, it would technically work like the way I'm going to set it up. I'm going to do like collisions or like a trigger. So if you're over the inventory slot, you kind of trigger it. But I don't really like how this works, because you can just kind of move your inventory kind of all around, and it's just kind of silly, in my opinion. But I want it kind of perfectly matched up. So basically I need to lock the player to a position. And then if they press, left or right, they go, perfectly, I think 4 tiles. So 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles to the right or down or wherever they're going to go. And then they can't, interrupt that. So you have to kind of deactivate all of your other buttons until you get there, and then you can let them move again. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to select let's see. Yeah, so I'm going to say on init, I'm going to insert event before, and I will just say set position, set actor position. And I think I'll just default it to just start kind of right at the 1, right at the first one. So I will just kind of do that and do that. So the actor should always spawn right there. And I'm going to make this more complicated later, but for now, I'll just say insert event after and attach script to button. And I'll just say to the right. If you go to the right, then I'm going to set relative position. Actually, not set relative position. I'm going to move. So yeah, I'm going to say move relative by, in this case, 4. So when I press right, it should just go right, 4 tiles. So let's just kind of test that out really quick, see what that looks like. So if I press enter, or the start key equivalent. So now you can see when I press it, just press right, it goes perfectly, to the right 4 tiles. And it just keeps going until you hit the wall. And then if I press left or any other button, it's not really tied to any logic. So it just only really does that if I press that right key right now. But that's kind of the how I want it to be. So I want it to just kind of perfectly move over there. Um, and I think that would work pretty good. So let's think about the best way to stop it. So I could set up some logic like, oh, if you're at this tile, then you can't go right, or if you're at this tile, you can't press up. But I think it's probably easier since we're doing walking anyway, and it's literally just moving the character around, except your character is now, a little selection thing. If you just put collision. So I'm just going to do collision, and I'm just going to do collision around my whole inventory. Oops, I need to erase that probably. And if you do it like that, so now if I tested, you'll see that I can still go right, but I can't go too far right. And it just stops. So it doesn't let you. It doesn't let you go any further, which is kind of what I want. And the same thing, I'm going to do basically the same thing for all 4 directions. So depending on, which way you're going or which button you press, it's going to do a few things. Now, I do want to kind of fix it. So right now, if I press right and then if I press left, kind of at the same time, it will kind of stop it and, kind of mess it up a little bit. And if you have both of the buttons doing the same thing, then the game won't really know, what you actually want to do, and it'll just kind of stop it there. So basically I need to set up a flag, and I want to get the right one kind of working perfectly. And then I'm going to just copy it for all the other ones. So I'll just go ahead and I'm going to do insert event before, and I will say if variable is false, and I'll do local 0. That should be fine. Let's see, inventory moving. So if it's not moving, then I want to do this. If you press right, if it's not moving already, then I want to do that, and then I want to set inventory moving to true before the move. So insert event before, set true inventory moving, and then after that, after the move, I want to set false again. So variable set to false, inventory moving. So now let me test that. And actually, I don't think I'll be able to test that until I do another direction. So let me just go ahead and just copy this for the attach to left. So I'll just say copy event, and I'll just paste it after, and I'll do left. And instead of 4, it's going to be -4. So let's just go ahead and try that. And I'll do that. So now I can go all the way right, and I can go all the way left. And if I press, I'm just like tapping left and right, but it's not really messing it up. It's waiting all the way till I get there. And if I wanted a delay or something like that, I could add, a little wait at the end. But I think instantly being able to move it is much better than just having to wait for no reason. I think that just makes the game feel a little smoother. And if I wanted the actual selection to go a little bit faster still, I would do insert event before. And this is as of version 4.2. If I set actor movement speed, it's going to tell me that I'm doing it wrong. Like it's going to say you need to do an engine field update, and I could not get that to work. So I'm not sure if it just is going to be like that soon, or like in a future update, it's going to have that. But right now, if I change this speed inside just player set movement speed, I just did speed 3. You can see the normal walk speed still works, but then if I go here, you can see it's moving a lot faster. So that's pretty nice. I think it definitely feels a lot better when it goes a little bit faster. I did feel like it was going a little bit slow before. So yeah, even though it gives you this warning, you're doing it wrong. this is actually the only way I could get it to work, is to just set the player movement speed. So it might, if you're watching a future update, it might have changed to use the engine field. But currently, from what I can tell, this still works. So feel free to use that if it works for you. And I'm going to add the down movement as well. So I'll just copy this copy event, and I'll just paste it after, and then paste it after. So I'll do up, and that'll be negative y. So let me do 0, negative 4y, and then down is going to be positive y. So down, and 0 for x, and 4 for y. So now if I run it, I should be able to just move all around the inventory. And let me test that out. So just pressing, my left and right. Yeah, it all feels pretty good. And right now there's no real logic to like what I have selected. It's visual and it looks really nice. But I'm not telling the game anything, based on what I'm hovering over. So first we need to add some triggers, and I'm going to add a trigger, and then I'm going to add a variable. So add a trigger just right here, and I'm going to copy this trigger. So I'm going to add event, set variable to value, and I'm not going to do a local one because other variables are going to need to figure this out or to use this variable. So yeah, I'm just going to do like a actual global variable. So variable 16, that sounds pretty good. And I'll just say, let me see, inventory slot selected. Or maybe I'll just say inventory selected. Inventory selected. So currently it'll start at 0, like all the variables. But if I change this, when you're here, it'll change to whatever number I put there. So inventory selected is 1. So now I just need to copy this trigger and paste it, paste it, paste it. And then this is going to be 2 and 3 and then 4. So now you can see if I actually run the game, I will show the actual inventory variable. I'll go to the build log, scroll down. Yeah, it says current inventory selected is 0 because I'm not in the inventory. But if I go to the inventory, so now you can see it's actually changing based on what I've got selected. And then I'm going to use this logic. So whenever you press A or B, I'm going to assign the A or B button to these whatever's in this inventory. So yeah, we need to just figure out how we're actually going to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is add 2 actors. So I'm going to say new actor, and we can just put them anywhere. And it actually defaults to the A button, which is pretty funny. The A button right now on initialize, I'm going to say hide actor. And then I don't think I need to do anything else in this actual script. Because I think what I'm going to do is actually move it just based on the logic of the actual player itself. So the player is going to look at the current slot, and then if the player presses a certain button, this is where I attach scripts for the player. I'm going to just attach script to B button and A button, and then basically it's going to use the A button and B button to assign certain things. So actually I might just copy this right now, this A button, and then just change it to B button. That should be fine. And also rename it, probably a good idea. So A button and B button, that looks pretty good. And then, so basically if the player presses the A button, I'm going to add let's see. Yeah, I'll just add a script before here, insert event before, attach script to button. And I'll just go ahead and do the A button first. So just A button, and then I think I'll end up copying this for the B button here in a little bit. So first of all, I think what I'm going to do is a switch. So I'm going to do add event, switch, and I'm going to look at inventory selected. So depending on what the current selection is for the inventory, right now I'm just going to have 4 options. So when inventory selected, or when you press A, it's going to look at inventory selected, and depending on which one is actually selected, it's going to move to a certain spot. So I want it kind of right above. Like it's 32 by 32, but I want the bottom half to be covering the current inventory slot. So I think this one, like 3 and 5 for slot number 1. So I'll just go ahead and try that. So I'm going to say add event, and I'll have to do a couple things here. So I'm going to say move, actually actor, I think set position. That'll just teleport it. So actor is going to be the A button, and it's going to go to, I think, 3 and 5. Yeah, so right there. So if you press the A button, it's just going to, if you're on number 1, it's going to just teleport the A button to 3 and 5. So let me just go ahead and just test that out really quick, just to make sure, my brain is working correctly. So if I come over here and I press any buttons, nothing happens. If I press any buttons over here, oh, you know what? You should show the A button. So I'm going to say insert event before, show actor. So right now it's still hidden. So show actor A button. So let's go ahead and try that. See if my logic has improved at all. I go to the inventory, and if I press A, look at that. It sets it to right there. So yeah, that looks pretty good. I mean, that's just kind of the basics of what I wanted. I think I might want to animate the buttons later. I think for now, maybe I'll just keep it not animated. Yeah, so now I just need to kind of add the rest of the logic. And I'm only going to do these top 4 spaces right now. And it's mostly because, I mean, you would probably get the point after just 4 of them. And you can, kind of continue on your own adventure using the rest of the inventory slots or whatever. But if I have 4 that are working solid, then I know that I can just expand it to the next, 8 slots, no problem. Now I actually want to do a variable for like where each button is actually set to. So I'm going to say insert event before and set variable to value. And I don't currently have a variable for that. Oops, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to scroll down, and I will just say, I'll call this one A button slot. Yeah, so A button slot. And if it's on 1, then actually I could just set it to A button slot to inventory selected. So I don't have to change this for each one. So the A button slot is going to go to inventory selected. Let's see. I'm going to do another variable. So I'll just add it over here, variable 18, and I'll say B button slot. And basically what I'm going to do is if you press it and the B button is already there, you basically don't want to have a problem where they're both assigned to the same inventory slot. So in that case, I would go back to here and say, I'm going to say I'll say if A button is already equal to inventory selected, then I'm going to hide. Or if the B button is already on this one, then I'm going to hide the B button and set the B button slot to 0. So it's just going to kind of deactivate the B button. So I will say insert event before if variable, I think variable compare with variable, maybe. So yeah, if B button slot already equals what I'm about to set this to, then I need to set the variable to value, set the B button slot to 0, and then I also need to hide actor B button. We haven't brought in the B button at all, but we will. And then I'm going to want to copy this to all the other inventory slots. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So basically, it's going to compare it. It's going to say if if the B button is already there, then just turn the B button off, basically set it to 0, and then hide the B button. And then later, if you assign the B button somewhere else, it'll move it and show it again. And then it's going to set the A button to inventory selected. It's going to show the A button and then set the position correctly. And that's if the inventory selected is 1. So all of this logic for the whole inventory is going to be in this like switch case right here. When it's 1, so that basically means that I could, and this is where I could add if got sword. So if you, let's see, I could just add it. No, yeah, I would have to add it right here. So when number 1, and if you don't want to do anything unless you actually have the sword, then you could just wrap this whole thing. And if variable equals true, I'll just say got sword. And I'm gonna let the other ones just be assigned even though they're blank, but I'm gonna just wrap this whole thing. I'm gonna put everything pretty much in there. So just kind of put, okay, that looks good. Put the A button. Actually, I'm gonna show the A button before I move it. I don't think it'll matter, but that looks pretty good. So now if you have the first one selected, it's only gonna be able to be selected if you actually have the sword. So we can actually test that. And I'm going to go here, and my A button doesn't do anything. I'm going to go open my beautiful sword. Wow, I found its sword. Oh, and I probably need to change that dialogue. I bet I could press B to attack, because now we can assign it to a different button. So the sword is there. In theory, it's not currently assigned. I think I am going to automatically assign it since it's like the first weapon you get. So if I press A, then it kind of assigns the sword to A. There's no actual logic, behind that. All we're doing is just kind of visually showing that it is set to A. Later on, I will have to modify, the start script. We've got like the sword button over here. Basically, we're going to have, instead of a sword button, well, we're going to keep the sword button script, but we're going to have an overarching script that kind of calls the sword button script if it's, inside one of these, A or B, where it's actually assigned to. And I'll probably need to modify the HUD as well, just because the HUD is a little small. And I think if I had a HUD that was twice as tall, I could just, show twice as much stuff. And I think it would just end up better in the long run. But for now, I think it's fine the way it currently is. So that works pretty good. I'm going to just go ahead and copy this. I'm going to copy all of these right here. And I'm not going to wrap them in anything else like, got wand, got shovel, got bombs, since we don't currently have that capability anyway, but I just want to make sure all this logic works. So I'm going to copy event, and this is only for the A button. So I'm going to just copy it to all 4 of these things. So copy that, and then I'm going to go to each of these and just double check that there's no logic about, yeah, so each of these I'll need to change the actual location. So the X, I'll just move that, and then it should automatically assign it to whatever is actually over there. And then if I go, let's see, A button set position, for 3, it's going to go over here. And for 4, I'm going to change the position to over here. And all the other logic should work pretty good. I could just go ahead and test that. It's always a good idea when you think something is working, but you want to make sure that it actually is. So yeah, for that one, I can't assign it because I don't have the sword. But if I go here, I can assign the A button, and then you can see it changes it. So it basically is changing the active inventory slot. So if I go down here, you can see the A button slot is on 2. The B button slot is on 0 since we haven't actually added that logic yet. But now that these are working, I can just kind of copy that whole thing for the B and then just change all those pointers to point at the B logic. So I'll just copy that. I'll just copy this whole attach script to A button, copy events, and I will just paste it after. And then I'm going to switch it to B button. And then I just need to go kind of reverse everything. So if the A button slot is already chosen here, then I change the A button to 0, and then I hide the A button. So that logic should be good. And then A button, yeah, I need to change it to B button since we're doing B button, and then show B button. So I need to change all of these to just reference the B button. And luckily, Game Boy only has 2 action buttons, so I shouldn't have to do this like 4 times or anything like that. Just kind of reverse all of these right here. A button slot. So that looks pretty good. Show B button set position, B button slot. Okay. And yeah, I wonder if I could just do this. I could just do this before. So no matter what happens, we're gonna hide. We don't need to put this inside the switch, basically. This if B button slot equals current inventory, because it is, yeah, it's gonna happen no matter what. So no matter what, if I try to activate this, so I'm just gonna copy this actually and just move it outside of the switch. So just insert event or paste event before. So basically, if the B button is already on here, then we're just going to hide the B button and set it to 0. So now I can just get rid of all of that logic for right there. Let me just make sure I'm in the right spot. So yeah, if B button is pressed, if B button equals inventory, wait, so which one am I pressing? So if B button slot, okay, so I need to actually change this to A button since I'm inside the B button, if that makes sense. And make the A button go to 0 and hide the A button. So yeah, since we're pressing B, we want to hide A automatically. And then I need to go back and just kind of delete all that. So if A button, can delete that. So now I don't have to, and it's not that annoying right now, but when I have 12 slots, I'm gonna have to go and just change all 12 of them, which will be super fun. So yeah, so I think 2 is set up. So show B button, set B button to the position, B button equals inventory slot. And then I'll do the same thing here. Show B button set position, and B button slot. Change it to B button, inventory selected. And I probably could have done move the show B button out of it as well. Although, for these, I'm gonna make sure that it's a valid selection. So I might not want to do that. I don't know, but let's just go ahead and try this out. So I, in theory, added the B button, and I got, actually this, how can I tell that's wrong? So B button, that should be B button right there. So basically none of these should say A button. I feel like I'm going kind of crazy talking about so many buttons. So let me just try that out for real this time. And just press enter. Nothing works on the first one. A, B, A. If I switch this one, you can see it switches. So if it already is the same one, then it switches back out, which is exactly what I want. If I pick up the sword, and actually if I go back, okay, so that's going to be another problem. So if, yeah, I think I might need to copy that switch statement to the on initialize, because right now it's just not, it's not automatically showing what's already selected. So that's already a problem. But let me just make sure the actual sword works. Pick up the sword. Wow, I'm so happy. I got the sword. Press A. This there's no logic attached to it right now, so I think it still works on the B button, which I think is the whatever I put on the default. So yeah, let's fix it. So if you go back to your inventory, it will automatically have that A and B button kind of in the right place. Yeah, I think I just need a switch. I think I need a switch based off of B button and also A button. So I'm actually going to get rid of this switch right here. And I'm going to do insert event before. I'll do switch. So this should automatically run wherever the A button is. I'll just say right now, just 4. So basically, I don't really care about assigning the A button because the A button is already logically assigned there. So I think I can just move it and show it. So let me just do that. I'm going to copy my show and move script. So copy that. And yeah, so if the A button is on number 1, then I just show it on number 1. And I'm going to do the same thing and just kind of move it over. So just move it by 2 tiles or 4 tiles. Then move this one by even more, and then this one all the way over to 4. So let me just go ahead and test that really quick to make sure before I copy this logic for the B button. So yeah, right now if I go to the inventory, I'm just going to assign this to A and this to B, then go back. So yeah, it looks like it's keeping that at A, and if I switch it, it still lets me switch it. So yeah, I don't need to do any logic or anything like that. I just need to move those buttons. So I think I'm just going to, I don't think I'm going to copy the whole switch because then I'll just have to switch out everything. So I'm going to just insert event after and do another switch for the B button. So I'll do B button slot, number of options 4. Let me just kind of speed up to skip over this since I'm just doing the same thing. So I believe this should work pretty well. So let me just test it right now. I'm going to just assign that to A and B. That still works. If I get the sword, okay. I assign that to A. It's remembering that I assigned it. I'll assign it to B. So it looks like these things are working. I think my logic is pretty solid. I don't think there's any errors with it or anything. So now I only have one script. I have the sword button. So basically I need to, when you start the level, right now it's just assigning your sword button. But I don't want to do that. I want to have basically an assign button script based on your inventory. So I'm going to do a new script and just assign action buttons. That's pretty descriptive, I think. And I am going to just, let me see. So the sword button gets assigned to B, but what I can do is just, I think I can just take all of the stuff out. So I'm going to do it all at once, just kind of minimize everything, select everything, and I think I could just move it maybe. Yeah, just click and drag and move it. I won't need attach script to B button. So in theory, this is all going to, oops, I just I just deleted everything instead of just the one thing I wanted to delete. So instead of attach script to B button, I think I can just set this to run on whatever button it is assigned to. The way I can do that is to do assign action buttons. And first of all, I'm going to make this run at scene start. So I'm going to just delete event for if got sword, call sword button. And I'm going to run this new one, assign action buttons. So this is going to run basically on most of the scenes. The scene starts because they all kind of run this scene start script right here. So what I'm going to do is inside assign action buttons is I think I'm going to have two switches. So switch, and I will just, for now, I'm just going to do one, and then I'll just copy the logic for the other one. And I'm looking at A button slot. So A button slot just tells me what inventory item is assigned to the A button. So right now I only need 4 slots. Later I might have up to 12, but I only need 4 for now. And honestly, I think I can just call the sword right here. So call script sword button. So when the A button is set to 1, just call script sword button, and then it's going to call that sword button script. So let's just see if that is actually a thing that works. That would be really cool. So right now I'm pressing A, I'm going to the inventory. I can still assign those empty ones since I haven't added logic to stop that. Nothing works. I can go, wow, I found my dad's old sword. I bet I could press B to attack. I cannot press B to attack. So if I go to here and I assign it to B, B still does not work. A does not do anything. If I assign it to A, though, A kind of worked once. I think assign action buttons should actually not just call that script, but I should actually assign it to the A button, which makes a lot of sense. I should attach it to a button. So we're going to do the A button right now. So whenever you press A, it's going to call sword button. So let's try that and see if that logic holds. And I'm going to get the sword. Found the sword. Okay, so it actually worked once, which I'm actually not against that. Kind of like trying out your new sword. Assign it to A, and now when you press A, hey, your sword works. You assign it to B, nothing works. But I bet if I just copy this switch, and then paste it after, I just need to change a couple things here. So B button slot and attach script to B button. So now my B button slot, in theory, should work. And then I'll just need to update that description text, like depending on what I choose for the default. Okay, I bet I could choose B button for attack. So A button, if I assign it to A, it works. B button, that works too. The A button doesn't do anything. So I think at this point we've got a working inventory system. So obviously, I will improve the HUD later, I think. So that'll probably be maybe in the next video, just kind of expand the HUD. And maybe I'll even use a background for it, because right now it's just literally drawing just a blank kind of background. And then you can just put whatever you want on that background. But I think I can make it better so it actually uses like an actual PNG file, so I could actually put background tiles on there and then just put stuff on top of that. So it'd be cool to have, kind of like in some games where they have, like one little spot for the A button and one little spot for the B button. Since we're kind of setting it up like this, where you can assign different actions to different buttons, which I think would be pretty cool. So yeah, I'm going to just call that inventory system good for now. Actually, it would be cool if it just assigned the B button to be the sword. So I can actually do that right here. So after, I bet, yeah, when it says, I bet you could press B to attack, I'm just going to set variable to value, and I'm going to set B button slot to 1, and that's the sword slot. So let me actually just test that right now, just really quick. So I've got nothing assigned anywhere, and then I can go here And wow, I found my dad's old sword. But I can press B to attack. And then if I actually go to the inventory, oh look, it's assigned to B. Oh, and actually I did miss one thing. So I went to the inventory before and went back and then it works. But it's not going to actually work unless I insert event after and do that assign action buttons. So once I assign it to this, then I actually need to assign the actual button to go to the B button that it was assigned to. So now if I look at it without going to my inventory, all right, cool. Then it actually works without having to go to my inventory. And if I go to my inventory, well, I don't know. So yeah, I think that was a little bug I just found. So if you're swinging your sword, and you go to your inventory while you're swinging, your animation speed is stuck at whatever the sword's animation speed is, and that's like 4 or 7. And then if you swing again, it resets it back. So we can probably just do that in scene start, which I think runs every time you come back to a scene as well. So I'm just going to have that, and we might do some other things as well. For now, I'll just set player animation speed player to 4. So that'll be just the default when a scene starts. Let me actually test if that works. So I don't have the sword currently, but now I got it. But I could press B to attack. Okay. And it's all kind of glitchy in the inventory screen. But when you come back here, it's nice and fixed. So I could also add that to the inventory screen actually, just to kind of clean that up. As I don't think there's a way. I mean, I could set it so you can't press the inventory while you're swinging your sword. But that seems a little, I don't know, kind of weird to start doing a bunch of if statements for stuff like that. I could have like a general, like if player is busy, then you can't do that. But I'll just kind of have this in the init right here. So yeah, I'm going to say insert event before, set animation speed, and the player back to speed 4. So that should fix that weird issue where I interrupt my sword attack and it just glitches out the animation speed. So now if I go to the inventory, it'll still just be fine. Even if I do it halfway through. So that fixes it for now. Just a little glitch there. And it should fix it at the start of every scene as well. So yeah, that was a nice little fix right there. And so one other thing I wanted to do in this video was to chop up some bushes. So let me actually go down here, and I have already made a bush sprite. So I'm not going to walk through, making that whole sprite with you guys, but you can see what I kind of did. So I've got the default state, and I made it pretty big because the leaves are going to kind of spread out. And then I did a destroyed state. And the destroyed state I'm going to try to have for enemies as well. So they'll also have a destroyed state, just kind of a general state. And so you can just see I kind of had the destroyed state, and it's just got 4 frames. The last of which is blank, which I think is pretty nice because the timing matters a lot less if you just have a blank animation frame right there. If I go back to the game world, I'm going to go ahead and add some of those. So I'm going to do add actor. And not the A button. I don't want to add one of those. I want to add a bush. So the bush, it is going to be solid. And on hit with collision group 1, which I think is the default for the sword, it's going to just play the animation state. So right now the animation speed is already speed 4. So I can just say set animation state to destroyed, and I'm not going to loop it, so that's a nice little trick. I think before I think with the chest I had done that where I had been looping it, so I just had to time it just right and stuff. But if you just play the animation, just don't loop it, it'll work out a lot better. So let's go ahead and just try that. I'm going to set as starting scene, and I'm actually going to just change this so I have the sword, so I don't need to go go run down there and get the sword every time I want to test it. So just for now, I'm going to, and actually, let me just see how I did it down here in the chest. I think I can just copy that. So when you do that, I just can say got sword equals true. And yeah, actually, I don't want to call the script sword button. Maybe that's why I was swinging that extra time. Or let me just undo that. And I'm going to call script assign action buttons. Actually, I'm going to do both of these. So B button slot equals 1, copy event, and I'm just going to paste it into the initialize here. So right here, I'm going to paste script before. So now I'm just going to have the sword when I start right here. So it'll be a lot nicer for testing. And so if I swing my sword button, you can see I've got the B button assigned to the sword. Oh, I don't have I don't have got sword, so actually I can't reassign this or anything, which is kind of funny. But if I had got sword, I could actually see the sword there and everything. But just for now, I'm just testing. So yeah, I've got the sword. So if I swing and I hit this, then you can actually see it just kind of disappears there, which is great. And that worked out pretty good. So let me actually just make a few more of those. I'll just copy and paste. And that looks pretty good. And I did slightly change how the sword works. Let me actually show you visually first. So if I go back to the sword button, I believe this is the actual sword. Yeah, this is the actual sword script. So it's over here in sword button. I'm just going to set this to test, and you'll see kind of what I did. So I just, depending on which way you're facing, I ended up just making 3 projectiles. Probably you could just do like 2. I just wanted it to, GB Studio seems to have a problem with hitting multiple things at the same time, especially if they are close to each other, like adjacent to each other. So what I did here is I've got this sprite sheet. So test 1, let me actually go to that sprite over here. So test 1, and let me actually see the collision bounding box. I'm actually going to make the collision bounding box smaller. So 8 by 8. So my transparent one is currently like this. So I'm going to just put it kind of right in the center. So the collision, I think if it's smaller, it just does better, especially hitting larger things like this. And let me go back to Game World, and then you should be able to see I've got the sword button here, so it's everything's set to test 1. And what it does is it just looks at the 4 ways the player is facing and then just does some angles. So if the direction is 0, which is down, it does 140 degrees and 116 degrees. And also these are not actually degrees. So they are actually like 0 to 256. So it's not 0 to 360. So it's going to look a little weird. Like 128 degrees is facing directly down instead of 180. But you kind of get the picture, and you can, if you get into modifying an angle, it'll kind of point the direction that it's going. So basically it sets up, depending on which way you're facing, different angles for these extra angles. And then when the projectiles actually launch, one of them goes just straight, and then the other 2 go at these angles. So I did angle variable, extra angle 1, and then same thing with this, extra angle 2. So those are just 2 extra variables. And let me just kind of show you what those look like when I actually attack. And I might have changed some of the timing as well too. So if I go here, you can see they just kind of spread out a little bit. So this allows me, so I can just hit one bush, or if I'm over here, I can hit two bushes kind of at the same time. And I kind of wanted that um, for the, for the bushes. I wanted to be able to hit like more than one at a time. Just, it's kind of satisfying, to hit more than one bush with your sword. So if I go back, uh, right now, these bushes are not very useful. They're just basically changing to their destroyed state, which is fine, but I also want to destroy them. So first I'm going to, if they're hit, I'm going to insert event after, and I'll just say collision, just disable collisions basically. And then I'll do a timer. Actually, I think if I do this, I don't know if I need I probably do need a timer, but I'll just say deactivate actor after I run that animation, but it might just immediately deactivate it. I don't think it's going to run the whole animation. Let's see. Yeah, so it just immediately deactivated it. So I'm going to insert a timer, just insert wait, and I'll say like maybe, I guess it doesn't really matter because it's just going to go to the blank frame at the end and it's going to be no collision immediately anyway. So I'll just see what that looks like. Okay. Yeah, that looked pretty good. So let me just kind of copy that. I might increase the animation speed a little bit. Let me just try that. So just kind of put these here. So these are just kind of blocking your way, And the thing with actors is, and the sprites is, you can't have too many in the same horizontal line. So just kind of keep that in mind. I did have like 10 bushes over here, and it just was not really working out very well. So yeah, you can see that looked pretty good. I mean, it just, feels like you kind of destroy that bush right there. And then we're ready for the rest of the game. You got to go over here, you got to go down, got to read that sign eventually and go down here and go to the dungeon. So that'll probably be in the next video. I might touch on the HUD, like doubling the size of the HUD and showing your inventory items down there, which would be pretty cool. But it would be nice to actually get some more inventory items first before we start messing around with that. Because right now, I guess you don't really need the HUD to show you what items you have, because you can just, press inventory and just kind of look at that. That is something else though. Like if you go to your inventory, it'll just bring these bushes back. So, that's something we could consider, setting up. Yeah, if you want the bushes to not show up, we'll probably have to think about that. But I think we did a lot with this video. I think we kind of built the starts of a village. We got the little quest to go down here. And I'll probably, in between videos, just kind of fix up some of this tile work, to make some of these tiles more green and then kind of resave them in tiled. You guys don't actually need to watch me do that, since you can probably figure that out by yourself at this point. So now I actually have the sword, like legally, since I just technically added it to the script. And then there we go. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So now I assigned it to A, and now B doesn't do anything. So I'm going to fix that so it goes back to transparent. And then I think that's pretty much it for this video. On the next video, I'll probably talk about building the dungeon. I'd like to get started on that, and then probably doing, I might do some of the HUD, but I think I want to do a lot of dungeon related stuff, like pushing blocks, stuff like that, falling down holes, just a lot of stuff we haven't really talked about. And then, maybe adding another couple monsters. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty good. So yeah, and I was not going to do this inventory thing, but then someone suggested it, and I thought, well, I could probably just do the inventory thing. I want to do the inventory thing eventually anyway, so I thought I might as well just add it to this video and kind of have it set up nice, and I think it works pretty good, honestly. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna clean all this stuff up over here, and yeah, just let me know what you guys want to see in the next video, and be sure to smash all those YouTube buttons, just any of them that you see. Give them a good smash, and I'll see you guys next time.